and welcome to the reading called November Rain. And so this is going to be launched on November 11th, 2025. And so when I say November Rain, it's going to be your personal November rain. This also falls on the 11/11 portal, so November 11th. So November is the 11th month on the 11th day. Today we also do have full-blown Mercury retrograde upon us, and so this is in pause and reflect time. Okay, and so this particular reading I'm launching will always be called November Rain, and it's going to always revert back to the song called November Rain by Guns N' Roses. An absolutely beautiful, beautiful orchestrated song, a beautiful message in it, and I always just love listening to it during the November rain. And do know that November is Scorpio season. And so when you come across that November rain song, is such a powerful song and such a beautiful message within it. And the music itself is very, very, very powerful to a soul, or on an energetic level, or even a vibrational level. So put that song on. Often when this song comes on, I'll be going uptown in a vehicle, and that November Rain song always comes on the radio in November. So it doesn't matter if I have somebody trying to text me or call me, I will never answer that phone or reply on that phone until that song is over, because it's very, very inspirational, and it's recharging, it's rejuvenating on a soul level. So if you ever get a chance, when you go uptown and it's the dark or the dead of the night in that dark November day, and you have that rain upon you, and it's cloudy, heavy blue, black clouds. And it's, again, that feeling of that warm, fuzzy regeneration energy. It's, the end of one thing to start the beginning of something new. And so do listen to that song. And that song is for everybody and anybody who's listening to this reading. And as soon as you get that environment, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It gives you that inspiration within, and that power within, and that rebuilding of that power and energy within, that rejuvenation energy. Okay, so just keep in mind, Scorpio season is always, always, always about the death and rebirth. And it's about the renewal, the end of one cycle, the beginning of a new cycle. It's a regeneration energy, reformulation energy, the death and rebirth. And so that's why it becomes such a powerful, powerful time zone. And it's also, I want to just kind of cover where this reading, it can be from the dark shadow side within us or around us. That can be inner circumstances or external circumstances. It's also about fears, looking at our fears, looking at our shadow side, to the exact polar opposite, which would mean the regeneration and stoking up for that brand new cycle coming in, or preparing for that new cycle, or that new something we want. And so that's why it becomes such a transitional, inspired time. Even though it might be a little bit tough letting go, putting something to bed, you're actually renewing yourself. And that renewal, that rejuvenation on that soul level. If anybody knows what I'm talking about when you listen to that music, or there will become that time where all of a sudden you maybe feel a little bit played out on a soul level, very tired on a soul level, and all of a sudden something just sort of sparks that back up and regenerates and recharges those souls, the soul battery, I guess, if you want to call it that. So do listen to the song, November Rain by Guns N' Roses. And again, appreciate the November 11th time zone, that 11/11 portal. It's like an open door or an open gateway for you. It's something new stepping in. And so when I was doing the pre-shuffle for this particular reading, and I didn't choose the cards prior because I really don't know what's going to come up. It could be, the dark side, the shadow side, something we fear, or it can be, okay, we have liftoff for a regeneration into something new. Okay, so I don't know what's going to come up, but I do know when I was doing the pre-shuffle out of this little black deck, and the mirror card showed up. So to me, when the mirror card showed up, that's taking a deep, hard look at our shadow self. And just remember, Scorpio season is traveling through those shadow areas, the shadow spots, the shadow side of us, our fears, the dark side of things, and facing them and dealing with them, right? And so when you get rid, and lots of times that is basically linked with past karma, or it can be past life karma, or family karma cycles. Okay, so just keep in mind, it can be everything and anything under the sun, from personal fears to relationships, whatever. Okay, so again, it's a revitalizing energy, rejuvenation. Revitalizing is a really good word for that. Okay, so we are going to start, and actually, I have to tell you the story with this deck. So this really called to me, and this really jumped out to me, especially with the colors, this particular deck. And this is the Akashic Records Oracle card. So when I went to pick this up, they slipped out of my hand and they completely exploded. I had cards all over the place. So we know that this card deck belongs with this reading, of course. Okay, so we are going to start. Oh, there we go. That was quick. Obligation. Okay, so this is the obligation card. I'm going to show you that. And I'm just going to try working on getting rid of some of the glare off the finish of these cards with the lights, but I will do that as we do the reading. So obligation, stop telling yourself you should when you cater to others or to unnecessarily expectations of yourself. You stop the flow of abundance. Okay, so this I think is a dark side, a shadow side for everybody. Obligation. So are you being feeling obligated to serve somebody else, or obligated to take on other people's responsibilities, or those kind of things, or are you doing obligations or tasks, those kind of things, or taking responsibility for things that really are no longer necessary in life? You're doing it because you're like a robot. You're doing it out of habit, not because it really serves anything positively. So again, this is looking like a revamp of your obligations, tasks, responsibilities. And just remember, if you are taking on other people's responsibilities and other people's obligations, you are not obligated to do that. You are not their mother. You're not their teacher. You're not their wife. You're not their keeper. And remember, if you're actually taking on other people's responsibilities and obligations in life, you're not helping them. That is an individual soul job. Each and every one of us have to learn. So if you take on other people's obligations, they will happily let you, and they will just keep on stacking your saddle heavier and heavier as time goes on. So that right there. So when I said about that mirror card coming up, that is going and having a look at that inner reflection, like what are you doing, what belongs to you and what does not belong to you. So it's time to send back to sender the responsibilities. Return to sender, I always like to say. Return to sender the responsibilities and tasks and obligations that do not belong to you, right? So right there, lots of times that will get rid of 50% of your workload or whatever you have weighing heavily on your shoulders. Know what your obligations are and know what other people's obligations are. Separate the two and lighten the load. Okay, addictions. Okay, so this can be two things. I'm going to show you this card. There's the addictions. So this is, you can be dealing with or living with someone who has an addiction problem. So when I say addictions, that can be absolutely anything under the sun. It is not limited to street drugs or prescription drugs or alcohol. It can be, but this can be pornography addiction. This can be sex addiction. And the biggest thing is this can be workaholic problems or working addiction, meaning that is one of the biggest things or addictions that seem to be accepted by society because it's justified because we make more money. And money is the justification. So an addiction, apply that accordingly. So this could be you, probably not, but it's probably somebody in your environment or you might be in a relationship with or acquainted with, but it's somebody in your environment. The other addiction is you might be addicted to taking on other people's obligations and responsibilities and tasks in life. And so either way, this needs to be dealt with, this needs to be looked at, and this needs to be rectified, okay? And again, that self-reflection and mirror. So this is a bit of a tough card. So I'm going to read the card messages to you. So addiction, codependent, obsession, possessiveness, controlling, and has a block, and restraint. Okay, so this is something else too. With the addiction, although that I read or just talk to you about the addictions, because this actually brings up codependency, dependency and codependency. Now, if you have somebody who's very, very dependent on you, or it's a codependent relationship or partnership, that is also a problem. Again, this leads right back to that obligations. If you have a codependency problem, a dependency problem, there's an obligation. It could be money, it could be attention, or holding somebody else afloat because they just don't want to do the self-inner work and they're laying that on you to make their life better. Often we will see this where you can have people involved. So that can be friendships, that can be personal to professional relationships. They are dependent on that other person to make their life better. And over time, they will expect that. And so it makes their life cozy and cushy, but that's not your job to make someone else's life better. That is all of our own jobs. We are all, as individuals, responsible to make our own lives better and fix things that are broken, or work with those dark sides, or fix those dark sides. That you're not responsible to fix somebody else, nor can you fix anybody else. We don't hold that power, but by God, if we did, it would be a much better world now, wouldn't it? That's not reality. We are all responsible for ourselves, and people have to take it upon themselves to fix themselves. You can't fix another, and that's not your job. It's not your obligation. But we can help people teach themselves to help themselves. You can help someone help themselves, but you cannot do that work for them. You cannot do their shadow work, right? And that seems to be a bit of a lesson that I've noticed over a lot of years, that just doesn't seem to click with people. They have that leaning post. They rely heavily on somebody else to do that for them. And again, if you stop back and you think about what you're doing, what you've done, how this person has grown over time, or probably lack thereof, they've not grown at all because you're doing all the work for them. That's not right. And that's a big load and a big responsibility that does not belong to you. So if you want to sit down and think about that, go over time, go over history, and you'll probably see repeating patterns. And when you start to notice repeating patterns, that's when you can acknowledge them and you can do something about it. You can fix it. You can rectify it. Okay. So we are going to bring up another card. This is a cool little deck too. Okay. This actually came up in the pre-shuffle. And so this is the dog. This is card 18. So again, this can be involve friendships, and this can also invite partnerships too, like relationships, personal relationships, marriages. This can be within a house. We have the dog, and he's actually sitting within a house or a household or a home. So this tells me this is going to be a relationship breeding to some degree, or it can be the best friend. The dog always represents the best friend. So you might have someone who's the best friend, or it appears to be, but are they, if they're depending solely on you to do things for them, right? And this also tells you that you need some time out. So, if you have a dog, or you have a cat, or you have a pet, and even if you don't, this tells me that you need some time out, some time alone, some solitude time, taking your dog for a walk, going for a walk yourself, enjoying some outdoors, getting some clear head, some clear thinking, some fresh air, and some solitude time. Okay, to think things over. Okay, so that tells me, and this can pertain to anybody who would have a pet or a dog in particular, or owns a dog or has a dog in their house. Okay, and again, if you do have that pet and you might be ignoring them, and maybe they're trying to tell you, you need to take me for a walk, let's go outside, it'll be not only good for the pet, but it will be good for you. Okay. Okay. Actually, this is too many cards. I'm going to shuffle this again. This is the 1942 deck, Old Soul, Old School deck. A very good manifestation deck and common sense deck. All right. Okay, I'm going to show you this and then we'll read it to you. This is what the top looks like. Okay. Never put the key to your happiness in someone else's pocket. Don't ever let anyone hold that kind of power over you. Happiness is in your hands. It's in your power. That is so true. You cannot put the key to your happiness in anybody else's pocket, nor should you ever, ever, ever let them hold that key, right? You do you, they can do them. There's nothing wrong with helping them help themselves, but you can't make a better life, and you can't do someone else's shadow work, okay? I'll read that again. Never put the key to your happiness in someone else's pocket. Don't ever let anyone hold that kind of power. Happiness is in your hands. It's your power. Okay, we could have a little bit of a controlling and a power control struggle in a relationship. This is kind of looking like this might be someone who's very, very dependent on you, and has power and control struggles. And this can also involve obsession, and it can involve possession. feeling possessive over you, or an obsession and some sort of power control struggle within a relationship. So, and again, this is dealing with some sort of addiction and codependent energy. And you might actually just be feeling obligated to stay in this relationship, even though you've known for deep down a very, very long time that you do not belong here and something needs to be fixed or adhered to, acknowledged. Something needs to be done here. This has been going on. You know what? I'm going to say this could be anywhere from up to 10 years to 18 years. In this cycle. And again, when we have that November rain, again, this is a transformation and a regeneration and a self-empowerment reading. Like I said, this can be the dark shadow side, our fears, the dark spots, or things going on behind closed doors that nobody knows about. That is that scorpionic energy. That is that November rain energy to something brand new, taking off a new light, a new cycle, something else regenerating into new form. It's a very, very deep reading. And so if this happens to be a personal or a romantic relationship, and again, a partnership, marriage, common law, whatever, just sit down and listen to that song and watch the video for that November Rain song. So when you're actually listening to it, it gives kind of like a false ending. It comes to an end, and then it kind of goes into a bit of a pause. And then it just strikes back up into like almost like a regeneration of a new cycle within that music. It's a very, very powerful acoustic, a very, very powerful song itself. If you just sit and listen to the music, right? And that's why it's one of my favorite songs for November, the season of Scorpio, the Scorpio season, the month of November, when it's dark and it's cloudy and it's raining and maybe a little bit of snow flurries in there, but especially deep, dark rain on a very late November evening. It's one of the most interesting probably car rides or truck rides you can go to while listening to that particular piece of music. And I recommend it because you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so this... Oop, too many cards. Okay, this one wants to come with 2 cards, so we will take 2 cards. Oh dear, okay. And the last shuffle, I'm going to go pull that card out because it flashed us, and you know what? I'm going to bring it back in because it makes complete sense. It's the Revolutionist. And it flashed at me, and I stuck it back. And you know what? I'm going to bring it back out because it certainly belongs with this trio. And we have a madman involved here with this reading. I can see that. I will read that to you in a sec. There it is. Okay. So you are looking for a transformation, a revolution in life. I think you've just come to acknowledge that there's a problem and we need to do something about it. You are going to have people behind you who are going to support you, help you out, but you also might have those people behind you who are trying to sway you to stay in a spot that you really have grown out of, you've worn out. It's past due. Its expiry date is past due probably by years. I'm going to show you this card. So this is a revolutionist card. This is the one that flashed and fell on the table and I stuck it back in because there was too many cards, but this is meant to come out. So the revolutionist, champion of transformation, and here we go, the transformation season of Scorpio. And the November rain, right? Freedom fighter, pursuer of welfare and justice. Okay, so this is like the light bulb moment. Every time I see the revolutionist, it makes me think of Uranus energy, meaning the great awakener. There's a revolution in life. There's something that's chaos that comes to a complete head, and something brand new out of the blue comes in. It's freedom energy, it's revolution energy, and it is. And when you have Uranian energy, that's rebel energy. You're willing to fight for that cause. And here we have the madman. And this card, when this comes up, this is linked to that person who is dependent on you or has a obsession or a possession problem, a power control problem. Very likely this person has addiction problems. Apply it accordingly. The addictions will be different for everybody. And even if the addiction is codependency or dependency, okay? So madman, embracer of madness, frenzy, chaos, unruly, and possession. Again, so this might be somebody who is very, very possessive over you and obsessed. And they can be obsessed with themselves, their own ego, and that makes it very, very difficult. This is a tough spot, and probably addiction problems, and that power control issue. Because when you talk about Scorpio energy, Pluto energy, the Pluto rule Scorpio, that also can very much involve jealousy, power, control, struggle. Someone who is trying to be very, very controlling, demanding, right? They demand that you comply. And I actually had this conversation with somebody quite some time ago where I said, by order, by demand, and ordering compliance. Last time I checked, that's what they call jail or prison. That's not a relationship. That's not a friendship. So just something to think about by comparison, right? When I say that to people, all of a sudden they look at me like I have two heads, like I never thought of that, right? And so here we have the writer. Weaver of tales, storyteller, crafting, communication, and polishing. Okay, so this, when I look at this makes me think that you are getting affairs in order to do something about this problem, a relationship or this problem cycle. So you might be telling people, there might be a handful of people that know what's going on, and that can have to do with this crowd. Okay, and so you're telling your story, and so that can also involve legal matters or legal channels, or it can be counselors, anything to do with the law areas, lawyers, courts. The more I look at this, it just looks like, the first thing that comes to head is like, my head is like restraining orders or something like that, because we got a big problem going on here. And you might be documenting what's going on here. This is something else about the writing. So you're telling the story, telling the tales of what's going on behind closed doors. Someone's documenting, writing of what's going on behind closed doors. And if you're not, it's something that you probably should be doing, because later on you're probably going to need those documented writings, or whatever's going on. It needs to be written down, needs to be documented. Okay. If you need it for further action or within court or legal systems, boom, there it is. It's all in a book. So again, writing down what's going on. So this is probably a history of bad behaviors going on behind closed doors involving someone, like, again, who is very dependent. This person would probably make you feel like you are dependent on them. Like you can't get by without them. You could never move on without them. They would probably make you feel a little bit small. But in actuality, it's actually reversed. They can't go on without you. They do not want to let you go. The obsession is with you. They're possessive over you, but they want to flip that script. And realistically, they're actually dependent on you, because if they weren't dependent on you, and they wouldn't be trying to control and dominate you. Okay, we have a dominating problem here as well. So something to think about. Lots of times, until that's pointed out, people don't realize that. But they would like to make you think you're dependent, codependent on them, but in reality, it's exactly the opposite. They're not letting go because they're scared to be on their own. They're not letting go because you're doing all their work for them. They're not letting go because they are dependent and codependent on you, because you were babying them, you were looking after them. And it gets to be to the point where probably you eventually run out of give. There's nothing left to give. And I think at that point, when you kind of hit the end, or that point of return, but that line has been crossed, there's no going back. That's it. You crossed a line. There's no going back. No, they crossed the line for the very last time. Okay. So that makes it highly transformative. And I can see where this becomes a death of a cycle, the beginning of a new cycle, but regenerating that core energy. So over time, you'd have been feeling like, I bestly like to describe it as you're very, very tired on a soul level. That means from the inside of you to the external side of you is very, very, very exhausted. Okay, so that's where that revitalization and that rejuvenation, that power within, starts to spark up and starts to burn and create more energy within. But it's after the point when you acknowledge this, and we need to do something about this, call this to an end. Again, very important, you document everything that's going on with this madman. Okay, kind of a crazy combination here, but the documenting and the writing down what's going on with the person you're involved with is going to set you free. That's going to create your revolution. Okay, I go, wow. We have the 10 of Wands. That is a fiery ending. Okay, this is probably what's been going on behind closed doors. It's a lot of anger. It's a lot of heated conversations, and something you've had enough of, and bringing that to a close. Every time we see the tens are always about endings, closures, culminations, finishing off a cycle. It's done. I can't take this anymore. And this, to me, every time I see all those wands on this person's back, it's a very, very, very heavy load of responsibility that probably about 75% were not yours. And this could be somebody you're involved with who has an out of control mouth, an out of control temper, can't control their actions. And I'm just getting this where, they're doing something and you're always cleaning up the mess. They're doing something, saying something to people, and you're always left to try and make amends, make things better. trying to correct things. They do a lot of damage and you come in to fix. They do the damage, you come in to fix. That gets to be a burden. Enough. Okay. So when we see this, that's an ending. I'm going to pull another card from this deck. It's very heated, a very, very heated situation. And this person, might have the pertain or give the idea or the picture. They have a very, very confident streak in them. They're very secure, a high self-esteem, but that's not the case. It's exactly the opposite. Because you wouldn't act like that if you had confidence. You wouldn't act like that if you were secure in your life, in your world. You wouldn't act like that if you had high self-esteem, because you would see what you're doing. It's a low vibrational person. Okay, the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, so this here, every time we see the Wheel of Fortune, it's like, finally when you decide to make your move, things are going to fall into place. The Wheel of Fortune is in your back pocket. And every time we see circles, these indicate cycles. Okay, so this cycle is coming to an end, prepping for the new one, the rejuvenation, the regeneration, the recycle of the old into the new. And, there's always a good benefit of going through, tougher circumstances. And you're going to say, what the hell are you talking? What's good about that? The experience. The experience is good about that. The wisdom about that is great. The knowledge about that is wonderful. And that's those good life lessons that you take forward with you when you move on to your next cycle. And probably, all this energy that's going on here has brought a whole lot of wisdom, experience, and knowledge, and it's going to be applied very, very, very well in your next cycle ahead. Okay, so we have Jupiter. So that's growth and expansion, expanding your horizons. I wouldn't be surprised if whatever experience you're going on here will lead you into like a new profession where you would kind of specialize in what's going on, because there's no better teacher than experience. Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, wrote the book, right? You might even write a book, because you could be a writer. And if not, you might become a writer. So if this is any sort of challenge in life, which we know it is, it could be something you could be writing and publishing a book, or writing cards, or communicating. So not only a writer, but it could be a counselor, right? These are always the things that kind of inspire us to move on to our next level or next cycle in life. Oh yes, the Tower. Look at that. So this is unexpected. I talked about Uranus before, and here it is. This particular card is involved with Mars. So this is a Tower moment where there's things come crashing down to an end. Chaos, it's unexpected energy, but it's shock, surprise. But this has been a relationship. Apply that accordingly. This will be slightly different for everybody. But when you have the Tower show up, it means that this particular cycle, this relationship was never built on a solid surface. It might have been misleading. It might have been false foundations. Like, you might have got into it and realized, well, this is not what I thought it was. This is not what I signed up for. So therefore, it was a shaky foundation right from the start. And so when that happens, the Tower comes in to implode it so we can start over. These three cards are very, very, very powerful cards with all of these. And so, and again, you're going to need some solitude, some thinking time, some regrounding time. They sort out what is viable, what was true, what was actually untrue. And for the most part, this whole person you're involved with is almost like an elusive nature, an elusive personality. They portrayed to be one way, but they were exactly the opposite. But they had you fooled for a duration of time. And again, that time zone can be anywhere up to 10 years to 18 years. It wasn't as advertised. And again, during Scorpio season, I just like to say that this person could be playing a lot of mind games with you to get what they want. Manipulating, playing mind games. And I can see this because that's part of the madman. They weren't, you would have got together with this person under false pretenses. All right, we're going to pull one more. Okay, so we have 2 of Wands. We have choices to make. So this is a nice card. Again, so when you see this, we have a stair. We have a wand on each side. So this is inspired action. Every time I see that card come up, it's inspired action, and we have choices. We take plan A or we take plan B. We take path A. We take path B. Again, this is going to come about. We have Mars on both of these cards. And so this is going to be a shock or surprise because you're going to make a choice. So a good example of this won't apply to everybody, but all of a sudden, you know what, I have had enough. The Great Awakener, the Eye Opener, there's time that I'm just putting this to rest and creating a new revolution in my life. And that might be a complete shock and surprise to the person that you're with, that you made this choice. We have Mars here. That's the god of war. That's our course of action. That's our energy. That's our force. That's our ambition, our initiative, our willpower. We are going after what we want. This might be an unexpected, chaotic, out of left field event that happens, or you might be creating that unexpected, surprise, shocking event by moving on and making a choice to move to plan A or plan B. Okay, so moving on, moving forward, new cycles bring in ending. Again, a beautiful, beautiful November rain reading for the initial launch on the November 11th, the 1111 portal. To me, this actually is an 11 portal. If you look, there's 1 and there's 2, and if you look at them together, it's actually an 11. So what a beautiful synchronicity. Okay. So I'm going to grab just one card from this deck, and we're just going to see what it has to say to us. And this would be kind of like an advice from tarot card. Is that a completely different deck? Okay. And we have communication. So when we have the page, pages can be about young people. Pages can also include children. So there might be children involved. There might not be children involved. But this is communication coming in. And this is about getting your financial affairs in order. So anytime you see a pentacle, that is about money. It's about finances. It's about your material goods. Anything to do in the tangible world. So again, we have a deer with a little butterfly on its nose, and so you're looking at transformation right in the eye. And so this is about getting your affairs in order, okay? And it's about communication. So you might be making your move, talking about getting affairs in order to move or pack up and leave, or get your financial affairs in order, opening up new accounts. Anything and everything to do with communication, incoming or outgoing, can involve children, but it will definitely involve money, finances, material goods, home areas. And when I get this, I want to immediately put it right down by this writer card, meaning you need to write down whatever's going on. You need to document what's going on behind closed doors, because that is going to be needed, or it's going to be required. It's going to be appreciated down the road in whatever course this takes. Okay, so that's what I'm telling you, not once but twice, 3 times over. Document it, write it down, put it in a journal, keep it in a safe place. You will need that for later. Okay. So with that being said, you know what? I'm going to pull one more card of these guys, and then we're going to wrap that up. Ooh, how about that? We have the coffin card. It's backwards. Okay. This is putting to bed and putting to death an old way of living, an old way of being, an old way of life. This is the end. And again, this falls right below here. That is a confirmation, the end, culmination, finish. Okay, so when you have coffin, that's endings, ringing new beginnings, growth, change, liberation, and transition. That's exactly what I just finished saying for this whole reading. You couldn't get a better card to do the confirmation. Okay, again, enjoy the November rain transition. Enjoy the November rain Scorpio season of transformation, death, rebirth, and eventually, having that very, very tired, weak soul, exhausted soul, rebuilding the energy within your soul to make your move. And that is coming. I think you're there. And if you're not there, you're goddamn close to being there. And so there's going to be something that comes in that triggers this change. And remember, the revolutionist is about a new revolution. It's about an eye-opener, seeing something different that creates that revolution or that freedom, and fighting for freedom, right? You couldn't get a more dramatic reading for a first-time reading. Again, so enjoy the November rain reading. And I'm going to call it probably yours, whoever's November rain reading of transformation. So thank you for joining me on my channel. I hope you enjoyed the November rain reading, inspired, of course, by the November rain Guns N' Roses. So please listen to that song. And if you get the opportunity to be driving somewhere or looking out the window, turn your lights off in your house and watch the November rain out the window, or go for your drive, turn on that music, and you will get that vibe, that feeling, that energizing click, or just feel the energy of that song or the vibration of that song, and it just feels like it revitalizes you from the inside out. It's the best way I could explain that. When you listen to it, experience what I just told you, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so that will end our reading. Thank you for joining me. And so if you're interested on my YouTube channels, you can check me out here. So Midnight Bisous Tarot, that's on YouTube. And Bisous is Bisous. Seventh Heaven Junk Drawer, that's my other YouTube channel. Soup to Nuts Astrology, Health and Anatomy. I'm an astrologer by profession. And my Facebook groups are Midnight Bisous Tarot and Oracle. And Midnight Bisous C'est La Vie Astrology, jump into its rhythm. So click subscribe and like, and click the bell icon if you like, and I would appreciate if you could subscribe. It helps the channel grow. And I do have an Etsy shop, Midnight Bisous Tarot and Oracle, and I do have an eBay store, and it's Midnight Bisous Tarot, Oracle, and Astrology. And I do have cards available, and my newest book is a dream journal book. So if that interests you, come on over and look me up, and I would appreciate if you subscribed. Doesn't cost nothing, and it helps my channels grow. So thank you for joining me, and we will chat soon. Enjoy that November rain reading. Bye for now.